Live Transitioning Humanitarians every Thursday. And today I will be doing it on my own because Vicky is traveling. So that's why I will continue the topic of careers this month. And in particular, today I decided to talk about job search approaches. And the reason why I think that this topic is like one of the key things that we need to be talking about, especially in transitioning, is because in the process of job searching, we tend to have a lot of drainage, a lot of insecurities coming up, a lot of ways how we're needing something that we don't have, and how someone else needs to give this thing to us, and we have a lot of struggle around it. And also, what I find it fascinating is oftentimes we try to go after what we don't really want, and then get disappointed when we don't get it. Right? So I feel like we keep wasting a lot of our energy, a lot of our efforts, a lot of our um, like creating conditions where we get so much drained and so much exhausted and so much like disappointed for reasons that we don't even like. So that's why I really wanted to talk to you today about job search and how and what are the ways you could approach it, so that you save those energy, that drainage, and you don't even create those conditions for yourself. So in the job search, I see that um, we have two approaches. And I see many of us tend to approach one way that I will talk about now, instead of we could approach it in another way. So there are two approaches that I want to talk about in more details. Is one is where let's see what happens, what's out there approach, and the other one is this is what I want exactly, and this is how I will ensure, or this is how I will make sure that I will get it, and then focus on going towards it. Right. So in the first approach that let's see what happens or what's out there, and then based on that, I will make a decision, makes us keep researching things and keep looking outside of what's available, and then keep trying to match what we have to what's available out there. And oftentimes then telling ourselves that, well, what I have, or all the experience, all the skills I have does not really match, or don't really match what I have found out there, and then keep feeling frustrated, feeling drained, feeling like powerless, and feeling all of this is not going to happen, and then I may as well go for something next best thing. Right. So that's, I think I have been talking a lot about it. So if you see that whenever we are approaching like the market and see what's out there available, and then how we can match our experience to it, oftentimes we may not be successful simply because we will always argue, we will always discount our experience, or we will always keep arguing for how all of those things won't work, all of those things outside in the market won't work, and therefore, what's the point of even trying? Right? We will keep telling ourselves, well, we're being realistic. And who's going to hire us with our experience that is so unique to only one particular context, and we can't really use it in any context? And we will we will get even better at arguing for our worst case scenarios, rather than doing something about to get to what we want. Right? So we, in that approach, we will already start like putting ourselves in the failure, putting ourselves in a situation where we are trying to get something we don't want to begin with, and then being disappointed for not getting there, and then just telling ourselves and confirming, you see, it won't work. Right? So I'm sure many of you can relate to this, and I really want you to like understand that that is not necessary if you don't want to. Now, the other approach that I'm talking about is this is what I want and this is what I'm getting, gets us into the driving seat, gets us into the approach of I am in charge of the results that I want to create. I'm in charge of getting the thing that I want to get. Now, when I say this, when I present this approach, a lot of the times people tend to tell me then, well, it doesn't really depend on me. It depends on other people. It depends on the market, da 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 da. But I know that we can always prove that to be true, but it's not useful. Well, think about it. Like, what's the point of keep proving to ourselves to be true that all of that doesn't depend on us? Because all of that will just create drainage. At least this is in my body. This is how it creates is this feeling of drained energy of, it all doesn't depend on me anyway. What's the point of trying? What's the point of even doing all the things? I may as well stay. And then you just feel like, and then all the energy like gets used up and we have nothing to work with. So instead, what if we approached it like with the curiosity of it all depends on us and let me see how it can depend on me. Let me see how I can actually create that thing. Let me see how I can actually make that result happen. What are the ways I can do it? How are the ways I can do it? What are the things I can try? What are the things that I think will work? Or even if it doesn't work, I will keep trying and making it work. Right, so instead of focusing on all the other people that we can control, all the market things that we can control, on the like competition that we can control, we can just get into the mindset of this is exactly what I can do or I can control or I can actually create because that's really what I want to do. Because think about it, disappointment is inevitable. Only question is from which way you want to be disappointed, right? Do you want to be disappointed from the thing that you don't even want to have to begin with, or from the thing that you want to have it and you keep learning from that disappointment so you can keep going and exploring and trying to find out how to get to that result, right? So that's why I really believe in like not wasting our precious energy on things that we don't even like or we don't even like convinced that's what we want to be doing in the long run. I mean, what's the added value of it? Because essentially when we are trying to go to something that we don't even want to or we just feel like oh it's like remotely matches what we want, what we're saying is we're discounting all of our abilities, we're discounting our belief in ourselves. I mean, we're discounting of who we are and all the experience that we have built. Instead, we just focus on the insecurities. Instead, we just focus on how we can get that thing, and therefore we have to stay here. And then we just put ourselves all in the box, and then we don't go out. And of course, I'm exaggerating a bit, but you know what I mean, the message that I'm trying to get you, right? So that's why when you approach any job search, if you decided that you want to search for a job, get yourself to the mindset of how are you going to make sure that you will get that thing, the thing that you want to. How do you do that? And how do you stay in curiosity to find out mm, that this all depends on you actually, even though our brains are so good at convincing us that it's not, and not focusing on how it's not depending on me, but just focusing on how it depends on you, and then how you start approaching that, and what are the things you're willing to do, and also what are the emotions you're willing to feel along the way. Now, the other thing that I wanted to highlight here that I think I have talked about in other um, messages that I have been conveying, but I really want you to also think of adopting a mindset that is not of the mindset of a person who is needing something, but the mindset of a person who is investing in something, right? Even if you're not like into the finances or into the and I don't have much like finance experience either, but the mindset of a investor, what I love about is that it has this element of I'm investing my resources into something to grow, and I'm also investing it into the environment where I want my resources to grow, right? And maybe the classic investors that you have in mind is like they just invest in things that just multiply in money and all they care is about money. Maybe that's the stereotype that you have. And maybe there are some truths to that, right? But I really want you to think about you being the investor who is investing your precious resources that actually cannot be refilled or restored, and that resource is time, right? That resource is energy. That resource is your knowledge. And all of that, where are you willing to, or where are you wanting, actually, not willing, but where are you wanting to put in for them to grow? Not cost you, but to grow. Because I think oftentimes we approach um, job situations in a way that it needs to be hard, it needs to be suffering so we can get to that success that we want. Somehow we all have this mindset, or not all maybe, but many of us have this mindset of like the road to that place need to be so arduous, so difficult that when we get there, we're like, oh, finally we got there and we feel like we deserved it. We feel like we have been now compensated for it, right? And I really think that that's one of the mindset why we are tolerating a lot of the things in our workplaces, because we just believe that this is how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be, the success is supposed to be suffering. Success is supposed to be so hard that in the end, when you get there, you feel like you deserve it and you have earned it, and you need to be now compensated for it. No, I really want you to think about how can we approach the job search in a way that is like an investor, like that with the confidence of, here are the resources I have, and I'm looking for a place where I can grow my resources, where I can like become the person I want to become. Like, we're not even talking in terms of finances, we're talking about in terms of intangible results and growth that we're looking for in a job, right? So that's why, if we look at it from that perspective, the way I see it is that even if we search for job opportunities, we search for where we can grow and get bigger, or where we can enjoy, where we can actually get so much out of it, where we can make the most change, right? If you're not thinking about in terms of like investors investing money, but if you're thinking in terms of investors investing time, that's like the most precious resource we have. If we're investing it in somewhere, then I want that place to be the place where I can effectively make the change, where I can get to serve the people I want to in the most effective, in the most sustainable way, in the most systemic way, for instance, right? How and where can I do that if I'm going to spend the next however many years of my life doing that? Because if we look from that prism, from that perspective, then we are the equal partners at the table when we're going to the job interview, instead of the person who's asking for something that he or she doesn't have and hoping the other one gives it to them, right? And if we can approach the job interviews as equal partners, to say that here are the things that I have, and I want to invest in this environment, whether it's a humanitarian environment or it's a non-humanitarian environment, this is where I'm going to invest, and therefore I'm looking at these criteria of what needs to be in place so I can invest, right? And then we start looking at, okay, what are the things I'm willing to invest in, and what are the things I'm not willing to invest in, and why, which requires us to really deeply believe in ourselves, in our value that we bring, in our resources that we bring. It requires us to really be confident and believe in those things, and then also believing that the environment is there for us to invest in, rather than being this arduous, draining, never ending, frustrating, disappointing road that we have to go through in order to earn the money, or in order to be able to make the difference that we want. Because in the end, what may be very decisive is, depending on how you approach it, you may actually also spend your time in that environment that way. If you approached it from the beginning as, oh my god, I need something quickly, fast, so I can get to feeling stable, and then you are inside, and then you just keep feeling like you need to adjust to whatever is there, because you are not willing to experience the same urge, the same fear from before, and therefore you're just wanting to stay there no matter what, whatever the conditions, and as long as, right? So that's why I'm just suggesting to you not to use that approach of as long as it pays the bill, or as long as I can do this, or as long as I feel this way. And those as long as mindset just keeps us stuck in the place we don't want to be. So instead, approach it with the mindset of I'm in charge of creating an or finding or getting hired in the place that I want to. And here are the ways I'm going to approach it here, or here are those strategies that I'm going to use it and try it out. And this is how I'm going to get to it, and in this time frame. And when you do that, your brain will start like all of a sudden attacking you with lots of arguments of how that won't work and how this is this and how you need to think about this and your family, and all of those things. And that's good to know. And those are the things that we can just like clean out, meaning we can coach around, or we can process through, or we can decide what to do with them, instead of feeling powerless in the process of job search, in the process of getting hired. So, my dears, I really hope that you will give yourself a chance of adopting the approach that I'm talking about, where your result is the end result is within your control. Whatever you're wanting is within your control, and how you will make sure that it stays within your control and you create it, rather than, oh my God, it's a wide world out there and there are so many competitions, and my research shows that there is no hope and all of these things. And then we just dump ourselves with all of our arguments of worst case scenarios that we don't even give ourselves a chance to go and actually get to what we want to. Because purpose, like the main purpose of transitioning in life, uh, especially for humanitarians, is so that we can live the life that we really want to without compromising in any of the areas that we really find important, right? If we're going to do that, we may as well go through the process in the way that's so useful for us, that continues to increase our belief and trust in ourselves, continues to look at things as all the possibilities of what we can be doing and how and where we invest, rather than draining and hardship and costing all the energy that we have left, and then we just don't want to deal with it, and then we just like there we also don't want to be in, and then we just block ourselves from all the things